Our next outstanding alum is from the class of 1965, Earl Dunlap.
Earl Dunlap, from the class of 1965, is being honored for his achievements in community, government, and politics. He has done extensive work on behalf of children. He has been a dedicated force throughout his career, changing the lives and futures for children who have been left behind, neglected, or abused. Earl began his journey in juvenile justice in 1968 as a probation officer in Lenawee County and boys treatment director at Maurice Spear campus. In the mid-70s, he was appointed the director of a new 45-bed youth detention and treatment center in Monroe County, Michigan. In 1980, he was selected by Mitch McConnell, current U.S. Senate Minority Leader, to serve as Director of Youth Protection Services in Jefferson County, Kentucky. In this capacity, he led the reform of the Juvenile Justice and Detention Services System, Child Protection Services System, and served as the commander of what was the nation's first missing and exploited child unit, which later became the framework for the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. In 1991, he became the Director of Juvenile Justice and Detention Services at Eastern Kentucky University. EKY became the headquarters for National Juvenile Detention Association, National Association of Juvenile Corrections Agencies, Juvenile Justice Trainers Association, and the Council for Educators of At-Risk and Delinquent Youth, all of whom form the National Partnership for Juvenile Services. In addition to serving as the Executive Director of NJDA, he was co-founder and Chief Executive Officer of the partnership. Earl has served on many national juvenile justice and detention services advisory boards. He was appointed by President George H.W. Bush to serve on the U.S. Advisory Board on Child Abuse and Neglect, has testified before the U.S. Senate, appeared on TV programs, and served as federal monitor for the U.S. Department of Justice on consent decrees related to violation of civil rights in juvenile detentions and corrections. He has provided technical assistance in over 35 states and Puerto Rico. In 2007, he was appointed by the U.S. Federal Court to serve as the transitional administrator of the Cook County, Chicago, Illinois Juvenile Temporary Detention Center, a 498-bed facility, and the Intergovernmental Gang Task Force. Known as the JTDC, it was the very first such facility in the U.S. to have been taken into receivership by the U.S. Federal Court for civil rights violations and inadequate conditions of confinement. Earl's nomination contained many heartwarming letters of endorsement for this award. Classmate Ruth said Earl has fought for the victimization of all children throughout the United States in his many positions. Earl's heart is for all children to live in a safe and secure place in this world, to live without fear or danger and with love. Classmate Mickey Knight told about his first-hand experience that showed Earl not only operated successful programs, but freely shared his frequently sought-after advice and knowledge. Childhood friend and classmate Pete wrote that Earl's level of service, commitment, expertise, diversity, positive attitude, leadership, intelligence, strategic thinking, and his positive and professional impact throughout his important and meaningful career is virtually without parallel. Earl's brother Jim spoke of his impact by stating, "Earl had a profound impact on the lives of so many children. The impact was and will remain on the lives of young folks who will never hear his name or have any knowledge of what he did. His devotion, leadership, and vision will have resulted in a lasting series of changes in the juvenile justice system. He did this because of a love for others." Earl's son Brent spoke of his dad with these words, "Dad's career was his passion. Now I see why he preached to us boys about awareness, surroundings, staying out of trouble, and making right decisions. He still does this to this day, and I'm 50 years old." Classmate and friend Mary said Earl was a thoughtful, hardworking student who supported the values instilled by his parents and the faculty of Adrian High School. Other classmates added the attributes of humorous, smart, kind, confident, generous, good guy, leader, comforter, humble, strong sense of fair play, and a high standard of values. and they added the nickname of Gentle Giant. Obviously, these attributes have stayed with Earl throughout his many years of service and enabled him to engage his peers that led to significant changes for the betterment of many communities, organizations, and ultimately our children. Earl earned a BA from Siena Heights College that was followed with many areas of advanced study throughout his career. Earl is married to Susan and has 2 sons, one who has sadly passed away, 3 grandchildren, 3 step-grandchildren, and 1 great-grandchild. He and Susan currently reside in Effingham, Illinois.
Congratulations, Earl. Please come forward and accept your award.
After that, I'm not sure how I'm supposed to get through this. First of all, I'd like to congratulate all the recipients for 20 and 21. Certainly the first 3 videos were a testament to the wonderful things that were done by those folks, and the ones to come will be much the same. I also want to thank Jenny Engel for her help and kindness through this whole process. She only gave me 3, she said that I had to stick to 3 minutes, and I tried to emphasize with her that it would probably take me 3 minutes just to get up here. So with that said, I'm done. No. Somehow I had to break it up because I'm just not going to make it through this. It's really a humbling and experience for me. And you're going to have to give me a minute to get it together here, folks. It's a rare opportunity, for me anyway, that you have a chance to share the evening with your own personal hero. And some of you may recall there was a fellow up at you may have seen it on TV this week, some of the Judiciary Committee hearings. Some of you are glued to the TV to watch politics, which I can't imagine. But be that as it may, there were some hearings about the FBI. And, the impact that Larry Nassar had on thousands of, well, hundreds, if not thousands of girls, and how badly the FBI had blown what it was that they were supposed to do. The one thing I'm most proud of is the fact that one person who did not cave in and who stood up against the political pressure and defied anybody to do any differently than the right thing was my brother, who was the individual that took Larry Nassar down and stuck to his guns. And I'm proud that he's here this evening, and you get your butt up so people can receive it. Yeah. Now, normally I'm not this big a baby, I really am not, but this is really tough. This is the most humbling and experience that I think that I've ever, and I've been through a lot over 45 years, but this is by far the most humbling and honoring experience that I've ever had, to the point where it just borders on being surreal. But I'll try to stick to my text my comments and not go overboard. Adrian was my Mayberry in every sense of the word growing up. It was just a wonderful community. The Adrian school system was always a student-friendly system. And the teachers, to a teacher, you always felt comfortable at Adrian High School. My mother was a teacher for 29 years in Alexander School and Springbrook, Drager. She loved what she did. My father was an independent grocer, and some people may recall that he was a rather outspoken city commissioner. He didn't mince too many words. And I had wonderful, wonderful experiences at Adrian High School. Two of my favorite people, which people are going to see things a little differently than I do, but two of my favorite people were Brad Henson and Charlie Osgood, who were on the faculty. Now, for those who were from the class of '65, knew Brad Henson as the vice principal who was basically in charge of behavior. I spent a lot of time with him in 10, 11, 12th grade. Justifiably, nothing in it was any big deal other than I was a pain in his butt. But I spent a lot of time with him, and that's largely the result of the time I spent with him. I missed speech class. As far as Charlie Osgood was concerned, Charlie taught me cursive as the study hall supervisor. As on a weekly basis, I would be required to write, "I will follow all rules and regulations pertaining to study hall from this day forward." And I learned how to do that with 4 fingers and 4 pencils, so I was pretty solid at being able to handle that. By the time I graduated and life moved on, I had many, to be perfectly honest with you, many ups and downs between 1965 and 1968. Nothing extremely negative, but it was enough so that my mother decided that a .63 in my freshman year, first semester of school, wasn't adequate, so she sent me to a military college in Georgia, which, interestingly enough, I really loved until I got booted out of there for gambling. I'm just being honest, folks, and I'm getting to a better part, but it's they were life's good experiences from being, I think, enabled in some ways by a mother who could see me doing no wrong, and a father who decided that if I was going to be so irresponsible that he would work me every day that he could. But I was fortunate. I had good parents. I had a great brother. But in 1968, I reached a point where I had to do something with my life besides be a goofball. And so when I was married in late '67, and along came my oldest son in 1968, and that changed my perspective on life completely. And I knew I couldn't continue to be the irresponsible person that I was at that time. I mean, I didn't see it as being irresponsible, but apparently I was. But what changed my life, I think, for good was there was a fellow by the name of Maurice Spear, and some of you may remember him. He was the only judge to remain in the state of Michigan who didn't have his law license or his law degree, but he decided to take a chance on me when I didn't even meet the requirements to be a probation officer and hire me. And things just took off from there. I just happened to get lucky as I moved through Adrian, on to Monroe, and then on to Louisville, Kentucky. And whatever you think about politics, good or bad, I had the most positive and learning experience in my career when I went to work for the United States Senator, Minority Leader now, Mitch McConnell. who listened a lot better then than he does now. But that's the case in everything. When you go to Washington, sometimes you forget where you came from. The most important thing for me was my two sons. I lost one of them in 2010 to cancer. My youngest one was diagnosed with cancer a few years later, and fortunately was able to overcome it. And I wasn't going to be outdone by either my older son or my younger son, even though I would have gladly taken my older son's place. So I decided to get cancer too. And so we all three battled together in one form or another, and then my brother decided that he wanted it. So all four of us in the family kind of stuck together on that issue. For me, my career in life has been filled with some wonderful highs and devastating lows. Very little was more meaningful than breaking a child abuse cycle, impacting on the life of a troubled youth, or locating a missing child and returning them to mom or dad, or eliminating a pedophile from the streets. Or one of my favorite things to do was outing a corrupt politician and seeing to it that they ended up in federal prison. Why I took so much pleasure in that, I don't know, but it was certainly a pleasure. At the same time, I was blessed with two fantastic sons. One survived and one did not, but both will live in my heart forever. Thank you very much. Sorry about that,